Yates was talking on CHGO, and he was speaking on the possibility of a very major name lineman being made available through free agency, and that his belief is that this lineman will not only be available, but will be looking for a new home. This is a young offensive lineman, 25 years old, 6'6", 321 pounds, from the Kansas City Chiefs. Trey Smith is a name that Field Yates is saying will be made available. Now, I have continued to say, I do not believe Trey Smith will be available. To this day, I do not believe Trey Smith will be available. Why? Because Trey Smith looks like a phenomenal player. He is a young player. I understand he is going to cost money, but the Kansas City Chiefs usually do not let great talent get up and walk out the door. You got to go old school with that. Trey Smith ain't walking out that door. Chris Jones ain't walking out that door. Now, you're going to have to spend some money. You're going to have to overpay essentially for a guy like Trey Smith. I mean, you're probably talking about upwards of 20 M's for 5, maybe a little more. You're spending a bag on a guy like Trey Smith. But here's my big thing. And this is where I'm always concerned about names like this when they leave championship caliber teams, whether the Chiefs win the championship or not. When they leave a championship situation. Why? Why are you letting them go? Especially with guys on the offensive line. Why are you letting them walk away? What is it that you know that the rest of us don't know that you're okay not having him be a part of your team if he does end up walking away? I understand there's a financial aspect of this, but am I to believe that the Chiefs wouldn't move heaven and earth to make sure that Pat Mahomes is protected by one of the best young guards in football? Now, maybe you just don't want to spend big money there. Maybe it is the fact that you don't feel the need to go out there and spend upwards of 80, 85 to 100 M's on a guard. I understand he's going to be an expensive player and you want to spend your money elsewhere there. But the interior of your line is one of the most important parts. If Pat Mahomes, and we've seen this, is getting pressure up the middle, not to say he's not still Pat Mahomes, he's not amazing, but it is a little bit different. He's spending more times running for his life. You already don't have great tackles in that building. I think that it would be a massive loss to lose a guard like that. And the thing that I would look at is not to say that Tyreek was bad for Miami, but they were so willing to let Tyreek Hill go to another spot and be like, we will continue to win without you. We don't need you to be here. We will be fine. We guarantee it. Enjoy Miami, get your bag, set your family up. The reason they were fine moving on from him because they made Kelsey the number one. You were able to add to the defensive line over there. You were able to spend some money in some very key positions that you wouldn't have been able to spend them to if you had kept Tyreek Hill. Like, I don't know if it's a Tyreek Hill situation or an Orlando Brown situation. Y'all remember that when Orlando Brown was the number one? When he was the big name guy, when he was the guy that everybody was looking around going, yo, you got to get him. How do you not sign him? And then we saw him with the Bengals and we were like, ooh, oh, that's way worse. Would you rather have Trey Smith, who is, I'll say this, he is a proven commodity. The PFF numbers, y'all know I say take the fifth for what you will. I don't believe that everything PFF says is Jesus Christ incarnate. But his PFF run block grade 80.8, his pass block grade 70.6. That put him 10th in run block among guards in the NFL, 10th out of 135. That put him 33rd out of 135th in the pass block there. Overall grade is 78.8. That puts him 14th among 135 guards in the NFL. Again, I tell you, believe what your eyes can see. PFF would tell you that Braxton Jones is a great guard that the Bears should never look away from. It would also tell you that Darnell Wright was not getting blown around. And yet we saw things like that happen. There's my concern with a name like Trey Smith. Now, I will say this. Let me tell you my excitement with a name like Trey Smith. Pairing him next to somebody like Darnell Wright. We saw what Darnell Wright was, especially in that run game when running to that right side, running that outside zone scheme to the outside where Darnell Wright and Tevin Jenkins were standing next to each other. And essentially you just had a road grader of an offensive line on that right side, just murdering and mauling people over there at every single turn. If I were to go out and add a piece like that on that right side, I've got Darnell Wright, I've got Trey Smith. You've got to address the center position. I haven't done a super deep dive into all of the centers, but I believe in the second round, you could get a guy like Jake Majors out of Texas with one of those picks, which I think he's my star at center right now. For me right now, he's my number one. I think he is an absolute monster out there. If you go out and you get a guy like Will Campbell, who seems like he's grading out more at guard, but is a monster at that left tackle position in college, has not a lot of pressure. Maybe you end up moving him inside. Maybe you end up kicking Braxton Jones inside and putting in, I wouldn't want to see that much either, but and leaving and putting Will Campbell at the left tackle position, or either way, maybe you keep Matt Pryor. If you're telling me I'm drafting my center, I'm drafting either my left tackle or guard, and I have to live with Braxton Jones for a year, while I would not be thrilled by it, my interior of my offensive line feels a heck of a lot more secure than what Caleb Williams had to deal with this season. The trenches is the most important piece of all of this. And the one thing that I do not want to see, the one reason I want a guy like Hank Fraley in the building, the one reason why I love the fact that Ben Johnson is coming here is because Ben Johnson's system is completely predicated on the trenches. Ben Johnson's system is completely predicated on being able to move guys in the middle. His system is completely predicated on having dogs up front. And I can't sit here and tell you that everyone is an all-pro stud, but if you got enough, when you talk about Decker, when you talk about Ragnow, when you talk about Sewell, then I can slot in a Zeller. I can slot in a Glasgow. Now we're moving people. Now we're pushing people in the direction we want to go. I think that right side with Trey Smith would be absolutely beautiful. The tough part about it is, if it is, you're now in your third year of Darnell Wright, you're getting to a point where you have to pay him. I'm all for investing most of your money in that offensive line. It's a lot of money at the guard position. It's a heck of a lot of money at the guard position. But I am here for you investing a lot of your money at in the offensive line. Realistically speaking, you get to do a little bit more, because in my scenario, you would have two guys on their rookie contracts there. You would have a guy like Jake Majors. You would have a Will Campbell out there to be able to offset some of the spending you're going to have to do on that line. But I am ready, and I think that with Ben Johnson, with Hank Fraley in the building, you are going to see an offensive line here with the Chicago Bears that is not going to be the second cheapest offensive line in football. Realistically, the cheapest offensive line in football, because I believe the offensive line was it cost about $33 million, and you cut 20, or I'm sorry, it cost about $23 million, and you cut 10 of it 6 weeks into the season. That gets me excited. That gets me excited. That makes me feel good about the future of this trenches and of these trenches. And that's just 2 picks. You've still got another pick in the second round. That means that you could go out and attack that defensive side of the football, the defensive line. You've still got your full slate of picks as well with 3rd round picks and things like that. You've still got options to trade picks and move up to try and stockpile more picks. Like, I think you need to get the best talent that you can get because you spent a lot of money on Ben Johnson. Why wouldn't you give Ben Johnson the best of the best of the best? Ben, what do you need? What have you identified? What do you see? You give him that early, Dennis. What do you need now? We're looking at you. What do you need? I need more from Montez. You got to give me more on this defensive line. We got to make this work.